on video? Thanks, Mike. Heather, are you on video today? I do not believe so. I don't know if she can hear.
Heather is here on video.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Believe that we've got our full quorum here today, which is good. So today is Wednesday, February 2nd, 1:02 p.m. and I effectively call this meeting to order. Can we go through, is Mr. Hushik on as well? Could I ask her to help me go through the attendance roster, please? Hi, Lisa.
This is in no particular order. Brian Wallace,
Present.
Kamal Johnson,
Here.
Heather Campbell,
I think Heather is here, but Heather, are you able to hear us?
there's Heather.
Yep, I'm here. Sorry, I keep
Okay,
cutting in and out.
that's okay. Cheryl Kazluka, Richard Wallace,
Here.
Dominic Moranti,
Here.
Teresa Joyner.
Here.
We have a quorum, Ryan.
Excellent. Thank you, Lisa, very, very much. All right, I'm just pulling up the documents here. Lisa, can you also confirm we've got I know that the live transcription is being enabled for this, which is excellent. And I assume that we're all set with the cloud recording as well, correct?
We're all set.
Wonderful. Glad that we got that settled. So I would like to start very quickly with, are there any questions on the minutes from the January 19th meeting, or can I get a motion and a second to accept the minutes as written and place them on file?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mayor.
I second the motion.
Thank you, Richard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, excellent. Okay, so I was able to send around, and I know Cheryl's not here, but I think I got most of you. We discussed briefly the last time to figure out when our official meeting day and time are. Chris Shale had sent a follow-up. Yes, correct. First Wednesday of the month is the day that we would be sticking with. We do need to come to an agreement here. The two times that everybody seems to be the most available for are either 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning for the early birds, and 4 o'clock in the afternoon for those that function better at the later hour of the day. I'm flexible to do either, but I would like to go around very quickly to see what we end up balancing out on so we can just nail this down. So I will start. Mayor Johnson, morning or afternoon for you, 8:30, 9 a.m. Or 4 p.m.?
Let's say morning.
Okay. Ms. Joyner, 8:30 a.m., 9 a.m. or 4 p.m.? Oh, sorry, you're on mute.
Afternoon.
4 p.m. Okay. Heather?
Afternoon.
Afternoon. Alderman Moranti?
4 p.m.
4 p.m. Mr. Wallace?
Yeah, 4 p.m.
4 p.m. All right. Am I missing anybody? I don't believe so. Chris, just to confirm as our legal counsel as well, that this works for you. Oh, you're on mute, Chris. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if it's first Wednesday, I can generally.
All right. All those in favor, first Wednesday of the month, 4 p.m. to be the new IDA meeting time, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right, great. We have our meeting time. All right, next order of business. We need to finish the appointment of an audit committee member. There was only 2 out of 3 that stepped forward for the audit committee the last time. Lisa, remind me, we have pulling up the audit packet here quickly. It's myself and Ms. Joyner, correct?
Correct.
Are there any other members, voting members here today that would be willing to step up, or does this become a voluntold situation, unfortunately?
We do have a finance committee chair, or finance committee, so the audit committee really only meets once or twice a year
First part of the year is really.
to approve
The last of the year to approve the engagement letter.
to review the audit and to review the 990 and recommend its acceptance by the board.
Okay. Mr. Wallace, could I task you with joining us on that board?
You could, and I would do my best to fulfill the responsibilities, right?
I appreciate that. So I nominate Richard Wallace. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, I think Teresa beat you there. I think I had saw her hand there. So, but thank you, Heather. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, excellent. So Ms. Joyner and Mr. Wallace, now that we have our audit committee, I believe you should both have copies of the audit committee packet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent. So
Responsibilities.
let me just move this over on my screen here as appropriate. Bear with me.
Mr. Chairman, based on the fact that no member of the audit committee was here when the minutes were done, you can vote to accept them rather than approve them.
Oh, excellent then. I will take you up on that motion, Mr. Tucker, then. So for those members on the audit committee, can we vote to approve the minutes from the March 2nd, 2021 meeting?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if you're going to go into an audit committee meeting, could you recess the IDA meeting and then go into the audit meeting? You need to be very clear in the minutes about which meeting you're carrying on at any one time.
Thank you, Michelle. Yes, so we are going to break and have the audit committee meeting now at this time. That unfortunately was not able to be completed during the first meeting of the IDA due to the lack of membership. Is that sufficient, Chris?
Yeah, I just want to make sure and then you need to go back to the IDA meeting.
Perfect. All right, so now can I get a vote to accept the minutes of the March 2nd, 2021 meeting and place them on file?
I vote to accept the minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Joyner.
A little bit of minutes.
Mr. Wallace?
Second motion.
Beautiful. All right, we are in unanimous vote that they are approved. Sorry, apologies for the sounds in the background here. Our next order of business on the audit committee would be to designate an audit committee chair. Are either of you feeling one way or another about being the chair for the audit committee this year?
When I read it, it looked like it was quite a bit. So did I read wrong?
I don't believe so. It's essentially making sure that the independent auditor and the financial statements and that the internal auditors and Chris, keep me honest here, I believe it's the internal auditors that are afforded to us through the CEDC acting as the administrative function for us are all ensuring the right compliance standards and the timing of everything as we need it, both on the financial side and the regulatory filings that we need to be putting forward as inclusive of public documentation. Is that correct?
It appeared to be.
Right, I would essentially say that they're responsible for interacting with the auditors, making sure you as the board are selecting the auditor rather than staff or consultants, and that the auditors are reporting directly to you, and that you are overseeing the required filings to make sure that the required filings are being made by your consultants, which would be CEDC in this case.
I apologize for the noise. I
That's
just
okay.
wanted to say, yeah, when I read that, it seemed like it was extensive. So I was thinking maybe someone with, who did it last year? Are they on the board this year?
Uh,
No.
Actually, the city treasurer's office does keep the books and records, financial records of the agency.
Who's
Uh,
talking?
So that, and then, Lisa and I provide responses in coordination with the treasurer to the auditors. And again, at this point,
Who is talking?
That's
this is
Mr.
Mark Tucker with Columbia Economic Development.
Okay, sorry about that.
But-
I'm like, which one are you talking? I don't see your mouth.
You see me now?
So are you on the audit team, sir?
No, we're just staff. We have Sickler, Torsha Churchill is the auditor that was selected by a previous RFP.
Okay, I'm just trying to show how much is involved.
No, if it's a bandwidth issue, but knowing that we've got the external audit agency, as well as the ability to work with the treasurer's office, I'm happy to take the position to chair the committee. Heather, if you'll have me as your partner in audit, if you will.
Fine by me.
Okay.
I motion to vote you in. Do we know motion to vote? Okay.
Motion and a second from Mr. Wallace, if he'll do so.
Yeah, I second the motion.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, so we have our chair. All right, second is adopting the committee charter. So again, and thank you very much, Mrs. Drahushik, for having these to us in advance. Are there any questions of the charter as laid out on page 3 of the audit committee packet as provided to us? I'm going to take the silence as a no. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the charter. Can I have a second, please?
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Joyner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. And in terms of the 2021 discharge of duties, Mr. Tucker, as in the previous meeting, I'm looking to you. We've got on page 7 of the audit committee information here. We have a full discharge of duties as I see them, including the approval of mission statements, performances of goals, the operations and accomplishments for the previous year, and updates on the projects that I know that we will hear a little bit more about today. Is there anything else you would like to add from an external administrative standpoint on the discharge of duties from 2021 of the audit committee?
No, Lisa puts this together and we review it through the minutes. Also, for the benefit of our new members, the charters are, we use the Authority Budget Office draft model charters to create the charters for our committees. These are used statewide, and the Authority Budget Office, along with the State Controller's Office, are the two agencies that oversee and have the rules and regulations that IDAs must comport to.
Excellent. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the discharge of duties from the 2021 audit committee.
Second motion.
Excellent. And all in favor? Ms. Joyner, Mr. Wallace? Aye.
Aye.
Accepted. Is there any further business before the audit committee that either of you would have for today? Excellent. I will now hereby close the audit committee meeting. Moving on now to the government's committee meeting and report. Mr. Hushik, we've got the acknowledgement of fiduciary duties status. Is that in reference to the signed paperwork that we sent back to the CEDC?
Yes, that needs to be filled out by several members.
Okay.
That is required at the beginning.
Do you have a list of anybody who is still outstanding to fill out that paperwork?
I do, but it's not in front of me right now.
Oh, that's okay. So I'll just remind everybody, in addition to the paperwork acknowledging the financial responsibilities that you have, there is also a required training. Mr. Hush, Mr. Tucker, is that an every 3-year training, if I recall from it? Is that correct?
And they say it's an hour and a half, or they say it's 3 hours, and they say 3 hours and it's only an hour and a half.
No, I understand. I completed the training. I believe it's.
Yeah, it's every 3 years.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes. So for those of you that need to have the compliance with that, please do so. And Mr. Hushik, I'll follow up with you offline just to get a list of the members that still need to complete, just so we can ensure that all compliance with those 2 elements is completed by the end of February at the latest.
Well, you're talking about the ABO training, right? The next training, I believe, is mid-February, and then there's one in March.
There was, yeah, I think there was a February 15th was the second date. I did the January 26th.
Yeah, I'm on the February 15th.
Okay.
And so am I,
Sorry, who was the other one?
Teresa.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Your box light up. So all of a sudden I'm looking, I'm like, okay, who?
And so am I.
Oh, excellent. So you're all on the February one. Perfect.
We'll get extra points for that. They like to have the same board members on the same training program.
Excellent. All right. I'm just going through our resolution here. The board appointments. Board evaluations for 2021. Mr. Husha, can you provide a little bit more information on those for us?
Annual requirement by the ABO document actually that's filled out. I compile it and then present it to the board by the end of March, so we can report that you've done that.
Okay.
It's probably 20 questions that they ask you to answer, whether you agree, disagree, somewhat agree. And I think I'm missing maybe 1 or 2. I'm not positive about that.
Okay. When is the next time that you'll send them out to all of the board members?
I can send it out at the end of the meeting.
Okay, that'll be great. All right. I also want to open up the table to the governance board for discussion on our policies, which, if anybody else has had an opportunity to read through them, are very out of date. I have a feeling they were written in '67 and left to wither on the vine. Chris, I take that smile as a tacit nod of agreement that's there. Go ahead, you're on mute, sorry.
Not sure about the 60s, but I did note that they probably ought to be re-examined. So, yeah.
Okay, Chris, what is our, and as I asked in the first meeting, I know that we can't expand the size of the IDA. What is our ability to have working sessions with educated members of the public that can help us better fine tune all of these policies?
So, I mean, a board can always request assistance, but it's the board that will have to make the ultimate decisions about the policies, and will have to, approve, vote on, and accept the policies that are drafted. And the board should do that, with a full understanding of what the issues are. So, you can take information, recommendations, other branches of the city, for example, may have specific information about policy issues such as the housing area,
right,
that you might want to hear from.
Excellent. I think that is, for Alderman Moranti and Mayor Johnson, I think that's something that we definitely want to consider, and is the specific reason that I had asked Mrs. Goldwhite's member of the public who ran for the IDA seat to join us here today, because I think her background would be wonderful to have read through these with us and provide external citizen input on all the things that we would consider.
Mr. Chairman, we would also anticipate that the Community Benefit Alliance and the workforce training and education constituency will also be appearing before you to make recommendations and discuss policy issues.
That would be great. And Chris, would we be able to do a special meeting for that then, where we can find a date and time where if we gave everybody, say, a month's notice so that they have time to digest the policies, to come to us with each group's recommendations before the governance committee, where we can hear sort of the intersection of what everybody has to say before we would make any updates?
Sure, you can absolutely schedule another meeting. You need to give the same notice that you would normally give of a special meeting. And of course, it needs to be an open meeting following the same rules that the IDA does for its board meetings.
That's great.
Can presumably help you with that.
Excellent. And Mr. Mayor, Alderman Moranti, if you're okay, I'd like to take that action on to get sort of the organizational elements together, and I can present that to both of you and then bring it to Mr. Tucker in terms of actioning it.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, it's fine by me.
Great. And Mr. Tucker, thank you again for that added note. And I would like to say also to President DiPietro, this is exactly where, from what you said in the last meeting, we would like to invite Ms. Wolf into those discussions.
Okay. So thinking about this, do you think we should switch it to Saturday? Saturday night?
Do we have somebody? An
I think so.
Hello,
Yeah,
do we have an
yeah, I'm
M.
not
Domesky
aware of
on the
anything
phone?
that we're doing Saturday night. Let me just double check with Lori, but I think that should be okay.
Is anybody else doing anything on Saturday night? Or-
Can somebody mute them, whoever's.
I don't have the power to.
Alexandra will be with me, unless she made other plans. But let me, you check with Lori, I'll check with.
I feel a little guilty
Alexandra.
listening in on this, but
Mm-hmm,
Can't
okay.
tell who's, we can't tell who's speaking.
there we go. Thank you so much, Mr. Tucker.
Oh.
So again, Saturday night, Lori will have Alexander, and so make sure we make the minutes with those elements too. All right. If there's no further discussion on the policy, and I thank everybody for giving us the latitude to really be able to bring together a community working session on them, I'd like to adjourn. I'd look for a motion to adjourn the governance committee.
I make the motion.
Thank you, Alderman Moranti. May I have a second?
I was second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, I'm going to officially close the governance committee meeting. Now we have the administrative director's report. Mr. Tucker, I believe that goes over to you, sir.
Thank you. I want to welcome the new IDA members, and Lisa and I are available at any time to review any of the IDA materials, policies, procedures that are online, as well as answer any questions. I do think that the review of the policies consistent with the ABO model policies, the engagement with the community on issues relating to individual projects, but also the policies, and within the IDA statute and its bylaws and purpose, how the IDA can be responsive in areas of workforce, areas of promoting housing, and areas of attempting to identify businesses that may be more that would complement in terms of job creation.
Oh, I'm
Our-
sorry.
Our housing and hospitality industries. Linda, could you go on mute, please? So I think that, we will be happy to work with you, members of the agency, in going through those issues, and then several of those issues may well be referred to the planning board or the city council to the extent they're outside the scope of the purpose and function of the IDA. With respect to individual projects, We had,
Just to clarify, Mr. Tucker, are you moving on to the project updates?
yes,
I'm taking my cue from Ms. Shale here in terms of making sure that we get the minutes and the verbiage on everything.
okay. I guess my administrative report kind of blends together, but that's fine. In 2021, the IDA approved $70 million of projects consisting of the 620 Union Street Hotel, consisting of the 2 Depot District housing projects. One was low income and one was affordable, and the recent approval of the pocketbook factory, which is PBK Hudson LLC. That's really an incredible amount of projects to do in a very small community. And it reflects the strength of the community's economic vitality, but also the needs of the community in terms of ensuring that there's adequate housing and other services for the legacy residents of the city. We expect that there will be several more projects that come before the IDA. These projects have been announced publicly. There is a potential project at the Elks Club, a hotel project. I understand there is a need for the Zoning Board of Appeals to take action before that project becomes viable. There's a proposal for, and that Elks Club project would be a hotel, 40 rooms, as I understand. The Galvin entity has proposed a project at 4th and Warren, again, a hotel. I believe they went to the planning board last night. And there was an article in today's Times Union regarding that, which I circulated to the agency member. In addition, we believe that the CAS site will be sold and that closing will occur in the month of February. And while there has been no development specifically proposed there, the nature of the site and the value of the land and its location indicates that it would be a major development project, which I would assume would, some parts of that project would come to the IDA. There are some restrictions on retail, destination retail work. So depending on what type of retail might be proposed there, it could be included or excluded from a IDA project. We continue, also, there's the Town and Country Market was sold, and the new owners are exploring the possibility of expanding it and creating a training facility, as well as a commercial kitchen to produce meals to go, which would be sold in New York City. It's a business now that's in Jersey City, and it would be moving here. Very interesting because it would have a job training component and a production component. And they have a very successful business now where they make meals and package them in boxes of 10. And as people are getting more used to bringing home prepared, frozen and fresh meals, they have a very interesting business model. I would expect there are 3, as you know, the city's housing study was released, and identified in that study were multiple potential housing locations. I also think that one of the last large pieces of land in the city consists of one Hudson Avenue, the site of the old garage door manufacturing facility. And we're aware of 3 developers who have come to look at that project, or it's not a project, but that site. It's owned by a company in Texas who's owned by a company in Japan. So it's a little difficult to get the attention of their corporate real estate department for 16 acres in Hudson, New York. Finally, the city of Hudson has put out a RFP, as you, I'm sure all know, for various housing related projects. And I don't see necessarily a role for the IDA, but again, it's a development activity, which I think when you start to look at all of these things at the same time, you need to think about staging and planning and prioritization. But again, those functions are not entirely in the scope of the IDA. The City Council is the planning board, and many of the community benefits that were sought in connection with the pocketbook factory are really, in most other cities, are planning board conditions and requirements. And that way, all developers are subject to them, not just the developers that have come to the IDA. So I think that kind of like they told me in middle school, buckle up, or at least when my children went to middle school. And there's going to be a lot of activity, a lot of decision-making, coordination between other agencies, again, for the benefit of the new members, because under the law, we're taking state action, or the IDA is taking state action when it makes a decision. We're required to undertake a seeker review, a State Environmental Quality Review Act review. The agency in the past has relied on the planning board making that determination as lead agency. So what we have done in the past is while we have entertained, and it's certainly up to the board whether they want to continue this practice, but to the extent that a project is in the pipeline and they've indicated they would like to submit an application to the IDA, the IDA has entertained the project and discussed it, but has made no final decision on the project with respect to going forward until the planning board has made a determination. Again, all of these things are subject to the collaborative discussion of all of you and your decisions as to how you want to proceed. But that's kind of an overview of where we've been in the past. The final thing I have relates to CEDC's contract. We have been managing the IDA for probably 5+ years now. In 2016, the Authority Budget Office wrote an opinion that, based on the fact that the Hudson IDA had not undertaken a deal since one of the two housing projects, which at that point were 10 years earlier, that it should be dissolved because the Columbia County IDA had equal jurisdiction because the city is in the county, of course. CEDC also runs the county IDA, and I met with the group, either a committee or the city council itself, and advised against that on the basis that the IDA is a statutory it's created by statute by the state legislature. And once you give it up, you're not going to get another, no one's going to get another one, because there's enough questions about IDA activities that the legislature is putting more restrictions on us, not creating more IDAs. It was at the time that the Wick Hotel was being proposed. The developers asked this county IDA to do the project. We were sensitive to the fact that projects in the city should be done by the city IDA, particularly if there's tax benefits that are being given up. Really, the city elected officials and appointed officials in charge of those decisions should be making them. But at that point, there was no staff at the city IDA. So we came up with a plan where the county IDA agreed to do the project at the request of the city IDA, voting to request that. And in return for the city providing a pilot payment structure that the county IDA would adopt, the county IDA agreed to give the city half of the development fee, which was $40,000. The fee was $80,000. So the IDA got $40,000. At that point, there wasn't much money in the IDA. So when we came on as the administrator, our contract with the county is $24,000 a year, plus 10% of any fee over and above 100,000. What was more attractive to the city was a $10,000 annual administrative fee with a 10% additional compensation for any 10% of any project fee, but it was capped in any 1 year. What's happened is with $70 million of projects and the work that our office, Lisa and I and others have engaged in, we can't be paid for work that was done under the current contract last year any more than was contracted for. But we're requesting that the $10,000 fee, base fee, remain in place. So if there are no projects, that's what we get to conduct the business of the IDA for you. But to the extent that there are projects, that we would request modifying the contract such that when each project closes, we would be entitled to 10% of your agency fee, up to $10,000 per project. Obviously, the work with the developer, the work with the consultants to get the reasonable test and cost benefit analysis prepared and reviewed and presented to you for your consideration and the follow-up questions. If you look at this, if you take the $10,000 base fee on the IDA gets 1% of the total project costs. So you're going, if the Union Street, the Depot District, and obviously the pocketbook factory did close, but if all three of those projects close, you're going to get $700,000. And what we're asking for would be going forward, not with respect to the pocketbook factory or 620 Union's partial payment, that we would be able to get the additional funds, which we're capping it at $10,000 a project. So 10% of the $250,000 pocketbook factory would only have gained us an additional 10,000, not 25,000. So, which kind of makes the 10% calculation kind of because no one really can do an IDA project for under $5 or $6 million because of the added costs and the added legal expense that goes with these projects. So that's our proposal. We don't see any projects closing between now and February. So, I probably prefer that you just take this under advisement and review it, ask any questions you have, and we would request that you consider it at the next meeting.
I appreciate it, Mr. Tucker. And I will say, just based on the increase in volume alone of the projects that you've laid out and that you've accomplished, that, and hopefully I speak for most on this call, we want to make sure that it's an equitable relationship in every definition of that term, right? I mean, if there's an ability to ensure that the CEDC operating an administrative way for the IDA is able to take on more work that brings more business and benefit to the city of Hudson, there's no reason why we shouldn't consider the ability to see that the CEDC be able to grow itself, because A, all boats rise, and B, it could be the accelerant that we need to really start bringing a little bit more to our city. So well outlined.
One last point is, we always envisioned that when you got to the point where you had $700,000 to $1 million in the bank, you would begin to start thinking about staffing the IDA yourselves, and we would step back and take a supporting role rather than the lead role.
Agreed. Send us the documentation. I, for one, would be very happy to review all of it.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. All right, with that, I'd like to open up the floor, please, for public comment.
Before we open the floor, I have a question.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Mayor Johnson.
What's the status on the consultants that we hired last year, towards the end of the year? Mike, do you know, have you been in touch with them?
I have, I did send them, did send them the comment letters, all of them, on the Pocketbook Factory to give them a real-time flavor of some of the issues that had been brought to the IDA's attention. As you know, we had limited their contract initially. We cut the scope of work down to keep it, I think, under, was it $2,500 or $3,000? I think they had wanted 5 or more.
Mhm.
I think that the discussion that the board is planning to undertake in the next month or so really would dictate to what extent you would like them to come back and weigh in, or to help work with Chris Shale and CEDC on draft policy modifications. And so I do think there's a role for them going forward, and they're very interested in continuing. But with the change in membership and leadership at the IDA, I've told them it'll be another month or so before we'll have a definitive answer, unless you want to move faster.
Well, I would like to see like what, we paid for.
Well, they did give us a report which they presented, as I recall. But I will follow up with them. And why don't I do this, Mayor, as a lead into potential future work without any fee? We would have them come and give the report so that everyone on the board has the benefit of the information that the previous board had in the aggregate.
If Mr. Tucker, if they'd be able to do that at the next meeting as well, I think it would be very beneficial for everybody.
Yeah. All right, we'll plan for them to have a 15-minute slot at the next meeting.
Fantastic. Any other comments or questions from the board? All right, I would like to open it up then for public comment, please. The silence is always thrilling. I know that. Final call for public comment. All right, everybody. If there's no further business before the IDA today, can I please have a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Mayor Johnson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the week and enjoy the snowstorm this weekend.
Yeah.
Bye.
Aye.
With the mayor on the phone, that was mean.